Yeah. So let's start. Share my screen. So by the way, I don't seem to have a quite stable internet connection here. So if you see some breakage of my sharing, let me know.
Sounds good. I started a recording just in case.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at the meeting minutes from last time. We have a bunch of items that we need to close for this sprint, right? So probably we can just go through each of the items and sort out the updates. So first item about RPC abstraction and code cleanup and optimization. Sarah, do you have any updates from last time?
Sorry, I was talking on mute. This is merged now.
Oh, it's merged?
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So I guess regarding RPC, probably Henry did some testing, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Henry. Sorry.
Sorry, Thomas. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to note that the changes to the RPC abstractions are in the ONOS tools code base. The beta release has been built, and the ONOS code base has been moved up to depend on that beta release. And so the changes are now available in the ONOS code base for additional work to happen.
Okay.
Right. So you will have a implementation of the RPC from dynamic config. Is that the next step?
Yeah, that is
Okay.
the next. So I just had it yesterday. So maybe today or tomorrow I can put it up.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk offline, so Sarah. If you have some draft, you can send me like a, I can at least do some testing, right, in my local environment. Is that
sure? I can probably merge itself. It's done. I just need to adjust it for the latest RPC. I mean, latest API signatures and a little bit of modification. So I can talk to you offline.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Harry, just make sure. I think you seem to have a breakage on my voice. Can you repeat what's the next step so I can capture it here?
Oh, our RPC implementation is almost finished. So Sarah will submit the code review today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So with regards to
with regards to transaction events, I had the code reviewed with Jordan. I see that there are some gaps that still needs to be done, and also a major rework has happened on the underlying part, like on the primitive side. So my code changes could not be merged as they are because the base files are not there anymore. So I'm just understanding the new changes, and I have to redo the changes on the latest code. So that cannot be completed in the sprint. It will continue.
Okay.
So Sarah, I have two questions regarding these work items. First is that does this work item include the transaction IDs that the application needs?
This change is purely for the underlying, like the primitive and the distributed implementation itself. There is transaction ID, but that is not the transaction ID that the applications can use. So if that has to be included, that has to be included. that I will have to create a task in the next sprint, and we will have to talk about it in detail. This one is purely for the broken part of the distributed system itself, underlying primitive itself.
Okay. So at the least we are still the transaction ID that the application needs is still on our plan, right?
Yeah,
right?
If that is what we want, that has to be done.
Yeah, you see, we probably need that, right, from the application perspective.
We can talk about that a little bit when in the next sprint. I haven't thought about it. It looks like transaction ID, but I haven't thought through. So let's talk about it in the next sprint.
Fair enough. Second question is about the event consolidation.
Yeah.
I have right now I have this problem. Okay, so let's say I have two applications. Application A, let's say it's a RESTconf. Application B, right? Let's say it's ACTN. Okay, so let's say application B creates a IETF network.
Okay.
Application A, which is the RESTconf, is interested in monitoring a subchild, a subnode on their network. Now I have so then my question arises: if application B, which is ACTN, creates a network, it's a giant tree. Okay. My question is: with this consolidated event, how many notification is generated? Only one notification.
Only one notification.
So then I have a problem. It's a one
you are interested in the
notification
subchild,
generated.
right? So
Yes.
So what I'm thinking is that we don't have any kind of data or any information in the events right now. So that's a problem. And when we right now, at the dynamic config, I would receive all the events, even if we are saying that with consolidation, we are planning to publish only one event to the outside world. I have a provision to go to see all those events at the dynamic config. So the problem there in consolidating everything is that one event's data will become huge if it has to include all the resource IDs and the data corresponding to the subtree that it was corresponding to. So we can do it in two ways. We can do it as like a number of events and say that, like, these are all pertaining to one transaction or something, and or consolidate all the data. We can design it again.
Okay.
So let's say like, all the resource IDs, if I consolidate and publish in the event, you would know that like, this is pertaining to those resource IDs. But Utah already has a need for having the changed data in the event. So probably we have to publish the like old data, new data, and the resource ID of each change.
Oh, that we need to see if what's the performance trade-off for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that again will come in the dynamic config part of the event consolidation. If you want to discuss in detail, we can come back to it. I wouldn't lose that information. Okay. If needed, I can furnish that. That's what my update.
Okay.
But Sarah, currently, how many events are you generating? With,
as many changes we made, as many children were there on the subtree, that many events.
So are you saying right now there's no event consolidation, right?
No consolidation at all.
Okay, yeah, but right. But after you do with the event consolidation, I mean, this specific issue probably Henry mentioned would need to be considered, right? When you add a new one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be the plan for this event consolidation work?
I can continue with that on the next sprint. I'm talking to Jordan, so I have understood the gaps. I need to do those. Okay. But I think in this coming days, I would try to finish the RPC implementation and then focus on the event consolidation in the next sprint.
Sure. All right. And how about the next one? This ordering of children. I mean, this is not like a big issue, but it's as far as our usage kind of perspective, it's a little like user unfriendly.
I know. So
yeah, with the model, like usually a group of parameters are like put in the same place, so it's not easy to read.
It's yeah, and also in the JSON serializer, I sort the data node, right? Then every time, right, when I retrieve a children from a node, yeah, so there is a performance hit for the REST-conf get, especially for the big tree. But it's, as I said, this is not like a blocking issue. It's basically we pay some performance penalty right now in a JSON serializer right now.
Hopefully we can do it in the next, finish it in the next sprint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a bigger work, Sasara?
It cuts across, like it changes the primitive itself. So that's why I can't do it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you think that it could be done in this sprint, or you want to put it in the next sprint as well?
I think the sprint is ending now, right? So I think it has to be in the next one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Device synchronizer, Yuta.
Okay, so we have been going through the more of a design discussion of the how tree internally looks like and what externally we need to expose and so on. So that's still ongoing, and we need to close on that in order to start doing on the actual device synchronizer work. So most likely this will shift all the way to the next sprint. And I guess maybe after the status sync up, maybe we can discuss about the slide I've sent out yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for the device synchronizer state right now.
Okay, so I'll still keep it as is, right?
Yeah.
Once, yeah, we can go through the slides that you present. Yeah. And REST-conf RPC.
Yeah, this one, as of yesterday, I started to change our REST-conf RPC to integrate with the new API. Hopefully today or tomorrow we can test the end-to-end REST-conf RPC with the implementation that Sasara is working on. Yeah, so.
Right.
So we're hoping that. Yeah. Yeah.
So once this is tested, I think we can conclude this integration work.
Yeah, then we can submit for a code review.
Yeah. And the Young runtime work.
Yeah, that is done. Yeah, I think that's.
Right.
Right.
And the last one can like to suppress.
Yeah, I think it's also the surprise. Yeah, I think from Gaurav. I asked Gaurav, right? Gaurav, is that done, Gaurav?
Okay. The suppression piece is done. Also, like there was extension. All the generated service interfaces need to extend the RPC service. So these two jobs is done. Now, the third piece is currently the generated method signatures takes the POJO classes. So I think we need to change that to RPC input and RPC output. So that is one job which is pending right now.
Yeah, as discussed, Gaurav, that piece is not really preventing RESTconf RPC from integration.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
That is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it is basically from the
this,
application perspective. From RESTconf perspective, yes, it has. It is not related.
Right. Because we could, I mean, today we could exercise RPC pretty well.
Yes, that's what.
Not with auto-generated code,
right? Yes, that's true. If as Graf said, I mean, if application need to use auto-generated code, then we need that work item Graf just mentioned. But otherwise, right, application should not be waiting. Okay, should not be blocked by that work item that the Graf mentioned. Yeah.
Right. But Graf, this part of auto-generated code work, do you think that it will be carried to the next sprint, or?
If it is not urgent, then I can do it in the next sprint. I was thinking like for dynamic config to invoke these RPCs, they need these changes to be done. But if it is like another way could be like the handwritten service interface and the implementation of that service interface be registered with the dynamic config. So that could be a workaround for the application to start with. But this I will take it up in the maybe next sprint. Early of the next sprint.
I have a question. The handwritten service interface, the interface will be auto-generated, right? Implementation only needs to be handwritten, right?
That is true, but alternatively, what we are talking, if this is not there, then the service interface could be modified to do that. That may not be the clean approach. That is what we are talking about. But yes, definitely the service interface method signature has to be changed.
I did not understand. So what is being auto-generated? The signatures of the RPCs are not aligned to the API that we have. Is that what you're saying?
Current auto-generated method signatures take POJO service classes as an input and POJO service classes, POJO classes as an output.
Okay,
so
I
that
understand.
Is the current generated. I have one more query with this regard. So in case the RPC input is not there, the RPC is can be there without an input or without an output. So in such situation, whether we expect the method signature to still contain RPC input output, or it can be void.
I think RPC input has to be there, but the data node inside will be null.
Yeah.
Okay, now, for the input purpose, then if the input itself is as a whole is null, will there be any benefit of still having the method signature having the RPC input? Because
there will be benefit. Dispatching will be easier.
Sorry?
Dispatching will be easier. I don't have to worry about whether there is an input or output. It can be done very mechanically if the signatures are uniform.
Yeah, I agree. Right, in the very beginning, the whole purpose of creating RPC input and RPC output is for that reason, right? We want to have a placeholder for RPC input and output as an abstract, regardless whether we do have actual data or not. Yeah. It's easier implementation, right? For dynamic config.
My suggestion would be to keep them uniform. The reason is these methods, effectively, the service methods, are not intended to be called manually, basically by application programmers. They're intended to be invoked indirectly through the RPC dispatching mechanism. And so the little bit of a ugliness of the fact that you may have a method which would otherwise should be void or take no argument. If it has the RPC input and RPC output just with no data, I don't think that'll be a problem because it's only mechanically invoked, not by applications, right? So I think that's okay.
Fine. So I'll proceed accordingly.
We can always enhance it or make it prettier later if needed, if you see a need for it.
Okay.
So basically, the conclusion is to still keep the RPC input and output, regardless whether data is empty or not, right?
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
And I think that's Sitara's suggestion.
Right. And next item, RESTCONF patch support. I think Henry, you update on that, right?
Yeah. The code review has some issues. I have So it's still under code review right now.
Yeah. And the last time we talked about 6-foot operation, that has been done, right?
Yes.
Also, yeah.
It's not merged yet. It's under the same code review, right? So yeah, we're gonna
So in addition to those two changes, what else we need to conclude the patch? I guess I'm thinking whether we can conclude that in this sprint this week.
That's doable. It's doable. I'll conclude this review this week.
Okay. Yeah. So the next item is the open config model compilation issue, right? As I also spoke with Gaurav offline, there are a few bugs which probably is a little more complicated than originally thought. Right? Gaurav, you probably can share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, actually, since we were occupied with the RPC stuff, and we were also doing the model ID additions and the GET API support. So this work is something we were not able to proceed with. Out of 7, 2 bugs has been fixed, but the 5 bugs I think will take a little longer time. So this sprint, it won't be possible for this work.
Right.
Yeah,
and also in Yarn tools and Yarn runtime, there's Yarn type related bugs. Is it also fixed or?
Yeah, that is done. There was one more bug which has been reported that is also fixed. So these critical bugs like we are fixing. Yeah.
Gaurav, let me know when you think we should have another beta build. The beta releases are reasonably cheap for the ONOS tool, so if you want to make those fixes or new functionality available to ONOS code, just let me know and we can cut out a beta release.
Sure, Thomas.
Also, the model ID changes are almost ready to go too, right?
Yes, there are some slight changes what I have suggested. After that, I think it should be good to go.
Great.
I think by tomorrow it should be ready.
Oh, perfect.
So, Thomas, are you also suggesting to create like a new beta version of the Yang tools, and you're going to create like an official new version of Yang tools afterwards, right?
Yes, whenever we're ready, whenever we think there is some of the bug fixes are fixed or new functionality is introduced, in order to make it available to the ONOS code base, we have to do it via a sort of a stable point in time, and we're using beta releases for that.
Right, but it does not have to be like in the same line with the release of the ONOS version.
Right? Not at all. Exactly. Those two can be divorced. What I would like to do is get to the. I think what we ought to do is operate, because a lot of the RPC stuff is still kind of in motion. So what I would like to do is operate using beta releases of the Yang tools only, and then for the and we can cut those at any given time. And when we are happy with this, then we can cut out 2.2 release of the Yang tools sometimes before the Loon release, and then the Loon release would then operate on 2.2 official release of Yang tools.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's also what I was leaning towards. Okay. Yeah. That would be good. Yeah. I also do want to see all those RPC fixes and the current code reviews are merged into the Yang tools.
Yep.
Okay. So next one is the Yang live compiler. Probably Gaurav, you have some updates in that too.
Yes. So regarding the live compiler, one work, the second work related to model identifier, that is what is under review in Gerrit. The first thing, get API, the base, the support from the Yang tool is ready. Only thing is in the Yang web resource, we need to incorporate that. So that is the status. The third piece, I think we will not be able to begin in this sprint. That will go to the future sprint.
Which one you're talking about?
The third one. The third one will not be started in this sprint.
Right. Right.
Regarding, I have one query regarding the RPC to understand we do not have any further work for the Yang tools. So Sitara, the query is basically you would be getting the resource ID from the protocol like RESTconf, and from that resource ID you need to invoke a particular implementation and a particular method. So how a resource ID, from a resource ID you will be figuring it out which method needs to be invoked.
So it's going to be wherever.
Oh, did we lose her?
Hello?
Hello?
Zara?
Hey. So the resource identifier would identify on the tree where the RPC is placed, the service interface name and the RPC name, right?
The resource identifier will not be containing the service interface name, and even the RPC name, what it will be having is as per the Yang, it will not be as per the generated method name.
So this is what we discussed in the previous meetings was that this would be the service interface name at least, right?
What we discussed is like the Yang runtime needs to provide a facility wherein you can give the resource ID and you would be expecting.
So where will the resource ID point to?
The resource ID will point to an RPC.
With RPC means what? The service interface name or?
No. The resource ID which comes from outside points to a RPC name. That RPC name is as per the Yang.
What is the difference between as per the Yang and then the generated?
What we generate is based on the ONOS coding guidelines and the Java guidelines.
So means the service will be appended and the cases will be made to camel case. Those are the changes?
Yes, those changes would be there. Some special character handling would be there in case of conflict. Some additional steps would be carried out. So one is the service interface name would be the model name appended by service plus some formatting over that. And
What is the
second is the
formatting? I mean, what is the addition?
no, so
I
format
understand.
no, so the formatting is specific to Yang tools now. So that is the point. Like, would you like to have the same code in your place, or you would expect a utility from the Yang runtime wherein we will provide you that?
Yeah, so I need the service name and the RPC name. If it is simple like case manipulations, I can handle that. But that's what I see right now. For service and a word service is added. For RPC names, the case changes to camel case.
So that is the point. Like, see, the thing is that is something tool specific, the way it is generated. So maybe for some special scenarios, some special characters, we may take some other way to generate it, which may not match with Java. So the RPC, basically the Yang in the RPC, it can expect any string. But
So
while
I need them as in the Yang, not in the generated way.
That is not possible, right? So that is what I am saying. For that reason, do you expect a utility from Yang runtime to give it to you, or you would like to write a same code in your thing what we are writing it?
So I would think it would be utility, right?
Yeah. So if there are tool specific massaging, I think a utility would be good, because I wouldn't know how you are changing that, right?
Yeah.
If this is fixed, I can handle it here. These are the only two changes. But if you think that it is going to be not limited to these two cases, I think I don't want to handle. I mean, utility should handle it.
Because in the Yang it is free to the user is free to allow any character, but the same is not possible in Java. So we are doing some massaging over there. So that is the point.
If that is the case, yeah, let's do a utility.
Okay, and so then if I understand it correctly, then Gaurav, so since you wanted to have the utility house together to return a single result, the RPC context is then basically that single result, which will hold the output of that utility, taking a resource ID and then deparsing it to RPC name and service interface. Is that correct?
Right, Thomas.
I see. Okay.
Resource ID to RPC name and the interface name, right?
Yes. So that's the context.
Okay.
That's the context. Okay. So I understand that. Okay. Okay. So that actually seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then we will go ahead with that implementation too, together with that signature changes.
Yes. Can I just make a much suggestion? This is nothing really code related wise. The comment that's there consumed by dynamic configuration. I would suggest that we don't even pretend that the ONOS Yang tools know about the dynamic config consumer. So I would just basically, I would just simply allude to the fact that this is required for invocation of the RPC handlers in the Java space, right? This is basically mapping the resource ID to the Java coordinates.
Correct. Perfect, Thomas. I'll make that changes in the Java docs.
Okay.
So Gaurav, so are you planning to submit this util sooner? Because I think we need that piece of util to do our RPC test.
Submit it very, very soon. We can probably submit it as is, and I'll just drop a note there to revise the comment in the future release. I mean, future patch set.
Sorry, Thomas. My line is kind of leaky. Are you saying the fix or the util is ready?
I looked at the transaction before. I looked at the RPC context and the schema resolver changes, and I already gave it +1 before. But then after talking with Sitara, I just realized that I misunderstood. I was thinking then, oh no, you're right. We are going to be not needing this because we're mapping we're invoking the. We can invoke the RPC directly based on the resource ID, but I forgot about the fact that stylistically we wouldn't be able to do that directly. And Okay. Now I understand that we need a utility for it. So I think this is actually ready to go other than a revision to the command, in my view.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. So, okay.
Yeah, Henry, so that is the API. So I'll proceed with the implementation of that.
Okay. Okay. And the implementation will go in soon, right? Gaurav? Right?
Yeah, so I think I'll try to give it as soon as possible.
So the signature should be just the RPC service, right, Gaurav? In that case, it should not be anything extending. I don't know.
Which signature, Sitara?
The RPC context signature.
The RPC
So that
context.
gave me the impression that you are trying to find the handler itself, the implementation class itself. It is just the interface name, right? So I think the signature should be just the RPC service, right?
I'm not sure I followed you.
RPC context. I'm looking at the code of the RPC context.
I don't think it needs to be generic. Yeah.
Sorry, I did not get it. Can you come again, Sitara? What you are?
So that gave me the impression that we are looking for the implementation class through the context. So shouldn't the signature be just RPC service rather than anything extending RPC service?
Okay. In the RPC context you are talking, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
RPC context is of basically interface which is extending RPC service, right? Basically, it's a context of an interface which is extending a RPC service.
Yeah, so I wrote my comments in there.
Fine.
I think we should be able to simply make the field. So I don't think the RPC context needs to be generic. And I think that simply all we need to do is make the member field, the field and the initializer to be a class of a class that extends RPC service. That's it. I don't think it needs to be generic. Do we? Maybe I'm missing something.
Okay. Basically, Thomas, you can give your comment in that set itself. Yeah, that would be helpful maybe.
Yeah.
One more query what I have, maybe it is linked to this, that is the gap in my understanding, is like when we are registering a service, right? Registering a RPC service, we are giving the implementation object, right? Sitara?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from that implementation object, how we are going to get the RPC, the interface service, the service interface name?
So the implementation object is implementing that service.
Correct. It is implementing that service. It could be implementing some more services also. So, so you are going to pull from that,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fine.
So
okay, maybe once I.
Yeah, I inserted the comments in there.
Okay. Thanks, Thomas. Yeah.
So before we okay, now we would be moving on to the synchronizer. I have a question on a recent change on the resource ID itself. So now the node keys are not mutable. I mean, I cannot work on the node keys anymore. So is this something that we really need? Is it because we are not copying when we are getting the node key list?
Okay. Node key list is supposed to be mutable. So,
yeah. So you made it immutable right now.
So node key list is supposed to be immutable. Sorry. So earlier it was mutable. So that bug we have fixed in Yang tools. It is immutable now.
Because we are not copying the node key list when we get them. So essentially that leaves the resource ID mutable, right? Is there a way to provide a node key list that way, or because implementation is reliant on the node key list?
Actually,
Assuming
resource
that
ID.
I am not actually spoiling the resource ID, but I am working on the node key list that the resource ID provided, and the node key list was mutable so far. So unless I rebuild the resource ID, it still remains immutable. And can you leave the node key list mutable?
That may not be a right approach, Satara. We want resource ID completely to be immutable. Now, a node key list, if you want to do something, maybe yes, you need to build it once again.
I would like everybody to have a look on that and then decide, like, because that's something I don't know. The implementation is reliant on the node key list, so like it would be a bit of a rework right now.
I'm not really following. In general, I think ID object, those kind of data object in general should be immutable all the way. And no external thing should be able to alter it after it has been brought out into the other world. So I'm not sure why.
So the resource ID is built through a builder, and as such, nobody is mutating the resource ID. But somebody, the implementation is trying to extract details from that immutable object and try to work on them. So node keys are part of that resource ID. We extract the node keys and we manipulate the node keys. Now that node key list itself has become immutable.
The thing is,
the reason could be that when we asked for the node key list, the resource ID's node key list itself is provided, a reference is provided. So when we manipulate that, inherently we are mutating the resource ID. That's fine, but is there a way that we can still get a copy of the node keys when we ask for the node keys contained in the resource ID?
So Gaurav, when Sansara's code call your resource ID to get the list of node keys, can we just clone a key, right? Clone a list and return the cloned list, so that Sansara can still use her existing code.
I think that piece of code can be written by a simple utility can be written for that, Henry. I think some copy function is already there, what I remember in the resource ID. You may look into that, Sitara, if you are able to use that copy function.
If I copy again, it's an immutable object. I think, I think it would be easier to provide a copy on that Git.
I would suggest, like, if such things are required, maybe you can write a simple utility to do that. First thing is the resource ID as a whole should be immutable. So node key list also has to be immutable.
It is not a utility, Gaurav. It has to be inside the resource ID. If you want me to write, I can write it, but I think we need that.
I am not sure, Sitara. I am not able to.
That's why I am bringing it up when all of us are here. So I would like to hear from others too.
Since Gaurav, you're suggesting that I need to write some util anyways. Why wouldn't we want that util to be inside the get function of the?
No, basically, see, resource Henry, the resource ID as such should not be providing any mutable copy. It is like what you are asking, what I am understanding is you prepare a copy, you clone it, and that clone copy, let it be a mutable copy. That is what is asked for, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's what I'm asking for.
Sitara, then I would suggest you can go ahead and change that in the resource ID itself.
Yeah, because the utility is what I have right now. The utility, hello?
No problem, Sitara. You can add
the utility
that
is
in
what
the
I
resource
have
ID.
right now. I mean, I don't find a reason in writing another utility now. So I need to make it available for the utility to work on.
Or the clone copy, what we are giving you, if that is a mutable copy, that should solve your purpose, right?
That should solve, but we need to really look at, like, you give me a resource ID and then you allow me to clone a mutable resource ID. Yeah, maybe that will work for me, but yeah, if it is a clean way of doing it, just revisit.
Basically, we are giving you a clone copy. So the clone copy need not to be immutable. The clone copy can be no, again, let us look into that. Maybe you can also look into that. I also need to see if I can do something.
What I
Otherwise,
felt was that when we get the node keys list, if we can provide a copy, that would be easier. I mean, we are giving the reference right now, so that's the problem. So if we can give a copy, that's what I thought.
see, that would be a very simple function, even if you wanted to write it
would be.
inside
That's why I
resource
didn't want
ID.
it to be a utility outside, so we can just modify the get.
Whatever be the case,
instead of modifying the get, right? We would probably better prefer to create a new API because the get. I agree with both of you. I mean, the get should have an immutable copy, but for Sasera's case, we probably want to get like a get mutable copy. Like make the API explicit so that
that's
the
also fine.
API is aware, right? Let's not or what I'm trying to say is that let's not alter the existing behavior of get, which should return an immutable copy, right? But let's create a new API called get mutable, right? Get a mutable copy, something like that, right?
That should be fine.
That can be done, right?
Siddharth, you can go ahead and change it. Submit your change. Let us see how it is.
Sure.
Okay. Sounds like we have a conclusion. And okay. Besides the item, what else? I think we like realize we have something that's probably need to be carried to the next sprint, but with this sprint we can close with the patch support, and a bunch of other items. Okay.
Okay, so is it okay to talk about the configuration tree discussion, or? Yeah.
So I think we are done with the list, right?
I think so.
Yuta, can you share? Yeah, can you share your screen, or you can start like discussing your material?
Okay, I'll switch to my screen and let me show this window. Okay, do you now see the PowerPoint slide page?
Not yet.
Not yet? GoToMeeting is showing this application. Still nothing?
I can see the screen.
You can or you can't?
I can see. I can. I see Yuta's screen, no problem.
Oh, okay. So maybe some propagation delay kind of things, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't see the screen yet.
So let me know if I'm ready to start.
Okay. Yeah, I think you can go ahead. I probably there's some delay from my. Yeah, now I see the screen. Okay, good.
Okay. So on the email, so we have been discussing what the device tree should look like on a discussion. So I just wanted to straighten out if we are in sync about the big picture kind of things. So in my mind, first of all, dynamic config subsystem, or that's whatever that is stored in the system, is going to be the purpose will be to store tree structure, some kind of data into that thing, and most of it is going to be populated using the Yang schema, but it does not have to be married entirely to Yang. That is my understanding so far. Given that, I think whatever dynamic config subsystem with the companion apps will be providing at least two category of APIs. One is the one facing out to the outside world. That will probably like RESTconf facing northbound of thing, and NetConf to the south, actually talking to the device. This definitely will be talking in the term of Yang. So the area those API will be touching will be Yang, but and the other one will be the actual direct API, the dynamic config service API, the store API, and so on, which is, as it is today, formed using an API, using whatever ONOS defined Java object tree structure and ID mechanism. So if I were to illustrate that, I think that things are going to look something like this. The entire tree itself is showing the content stored in the dynamic configs store and so on, where all the information are organized. And when we speak netconf down to a device, actually what we are communicating to a device is about subtree of the entire tree, which is correlated to that device, which itself is going to be exactly identical to the Yang the device supplied and so on, and probably the same story applied to the service API and so on. But I mean, for the sake of simplicity, I'll just put the service API definition stuff aside of it. Now, if we assume this kind of state, whatever virtual node or container node which needs to be in here actually does not necessarily have to have a mechanism to be illustrated using Yang, because I mean it is when we're talking outside, it is not going to be used to talk outside of Yang. It's just going to be used by the whatever application that will be trying to provide view or viewport of certain device. But other than that, this blue part is not going to be directly exposed via any external facing API. So this node does not have to be tied to specific Yang model, so on. That's my take.
Yuta, can I interrupt you here? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Regarding this thing, right? So the blue pieces, what it is shown over here. So if it is not a part of Yang, right? Down you have shown a RESTconf URL wherein that 1.1.1.1 is there after RESTconf. Yeah, right. So as per RESTconf, what I understand is this 1.1.1.1 has to be somewhere in the schema, Yang schema, because RESTconf will only define like root level. That root level would be like a fixed like ONOS RESTconf. Then we would be having a data or operation or something. After that, whatever follows is a part of Yang.
I'm assuming up to this point, it will be the base URI of that RESTconf interface.
That is where the difference is actually, Yuta. If we look at the RESTconf, right, maybe Henry can correct me. So the RESTconf doesn't have any device ID or any IP inbuilt in it. So it is after data or operation. Basically after RESTconf, right, there will be a data or operation node. After that, whatever follows is a part of Yang.
Right. So any part after this point is going to be the Yang specific part. I mean, just like the regular REST API, I'm assuming there will be a portion that is equivalent to base URI of a REST endpoint.
No, that is maybe Henry, you can correct me. Like this IP address, right, will inbuilt not be a part of RESTconf.
Right. This Yuta, this 1.1 right IP address is actually basically yes, it's a value, right? It's ID of a device. So basically, it's for complete URI, we need to say device equal, right? The 1.1.1. But I think what Utah tried to highlight, Gaurav, is that the tree, right, from a data structure point of view, that tree is a model language agnostic. That tree is not really bind to Yang language, right? This tree can be later used to serve some other modeling language. That's what I think.
But
right?
it has to be modeled in Yang. It can be used by other things. That is perfectly fine.
True.
But at least it has to be modeled in Yang for consumption of REST-conf, right?
True. This tree, this instance of the tree, it is derived from Yang models, right? But the data structure of the tree is very flexible. It's basically just a general tree data structure. It can represent other means. I think that's
that is okay. I think the point of discussion over here, if I understand it correctly, is whether this device, the things which are shown in blue, right, whether that needs to be a part of any Yang schema or not. That is my understanding, Yuta, right?
Yes. Exactly.
So yeah, so Henry, from that angle, from the RESTConf perspective, whether the things which are shown in blue, except the root one, right? Whether that needs to be a part of any Yang or not, for RESTConf to work, for RESTConf to accept the data in this format.
The data node in blue needs to comply or consistent with whatever the model specified, right? The relationships, devices, right? Those relationships are dictated by the model itself, right?
So if I try to say, so the part that you want to expose via RESTConf need to have a backing Yang model.
Right.
Yes.
So,
right.
It does not necessarily mean that we need to expose the whole ONOS tree via the RESTConf. I mean, if we, for the service API, I'm assuming you will be exposing, say, like ACTN service outward to via RESTConf kind of thing, then you will be exposing that part of the tree to the outside world. Similarly, for the device API case, I'm assuming the current use cases for giving direct access to the device is going to be sort of like a backdoor access directly to that device. So what we need to expose for that use case should be enough to expose that device's subtree only. In that case, you will not be touching this blue part of it, so we don't need to worry about what Yang.
Okay. That's right. So sorry. Just a quick interruption, Yutai. Expose. You mean by expose? You mean what? Like a REST. If a user want to do a RESTconf get, you should the user see device those tree in the RESTconf get. So
from the RESTconf protocol point of view, I don't think device will not appear. Now, whoever is opening the RESTconf, opening the RESTconf session as part of device URI, I mean, as part of the URI, it could contain that information so that it will be directed to the right RESTconf endpoint on the side of thing.
Okay, but if see the user via northbound RESTconf is able to delete the device at the device level, at those blue nodes level. In that regard, those blue nodes are exposed to the user and editable. They're changeable.
Yeah. So the thing is, can I interject here a little bit? So
yes, please.
Yeah. So if an application were to talk directly to the device, right, as is the case with the classical network management, they just simply establish a connection with the device, and then from that, inherently, then they're sort of connected to the mount point, which sits at top of all of the modules that the device implements. And so when they're having conversation with the device, they're having a context already narrowed down to that device. However, when an application talks to the device through ONOS, which may be proxying effectively for a number of other devices, as part of establishing that, we have two choices. We have to either modify the model so that it encompasses this sort of a proxy quality of ONOS, which is basically we need to push the models down into a lower level of hierarchy, and we have to sort of reparent them. And so, so that's one option. Or another option is the protocol. As part of establishing the session with the protocol, we pass in the address information as part of the sort of the opening salvo. And then from that point onward, the application then talks through that connection only in a context of that one specific device. And so there's caveats to both of those, right? In a context where it cannot pass the addressing information and where it has to use this sort of reparented model view, we have to introduce a new model, and an application now needs to talk to devices through this new model, which I don't think it's really viable at all, because we cannot be responsible for dynamically extending the model like this. On the other hand, if you're asking the application to pass the addressing information a priori, clearly that requires some deviation from potentially from the sort of standard protocol. But that deviation is only done at one point during the establishing of the session, saying basically, I would like to talk to this device behind ONOS, period. And then once you then have a connection, from that point onward, you talk to ONOS as if you were talking to the device. The question is, does RESTconf allow for that sort of addressing to happen essentially via URL? I don't care about network right now. I care about only the RESTconf.
Okay, so the RESTconf is able to provide addressing to any of the leaf, right? The leaf nodes in your task picture, those red nodes, right? We are able to operate on these leaf nodes, but the path has to be complete, right? Direct.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's fine, right? But the path, the resource ID, effectively. Yes. So that's fine. So the thing is, we need to make sure that the model requires no modification. And frankly, I don't think we need to be able to fabricating the synthetic a Yang model for that synthetic part of the tree, internal tree. And that's, I think, what Yuta's point is, and my point.
Okay, fair enough. So point number one, so first of all, point number one is RESTconf is capable of allowing the application to directly manipulate the leaf nodes, okay, via a proper URI, right? A path like URI. That's supported by the protocol, right? But second point is that RESTconf, nothing prevents the user from deleting or manipulate those blue nodes by providing a proper URI.
Well, they can try, but that would not be supported, right? That's a bad.
So that's here's we need to be careful. Right now, it's not that simple to reject a request via RESTconf to touch those blue components in the tree.
Right. You just don't do anything, and I mean, maybe the protocol doesn't make it easy to indicate that you've rejected it, but certainly you have to reject it. You just don't do
it. Oh yeah, but that's it's doable. However, it's not RESTconf standard compliant anymore, right?
Well, that's okay.
That's okay. Okay, fine.
It does. It's effectively what ONOS is. Again, this is a natural sort of logical outcome of the fact that the controller itself provides an aggregation point for talking to multiple different network elements. The concept of the collection of those elements is not up for negotiation. It exists. It potentially exists only synthetically, and therefore it cannot be removed. Application may try to pretend like it wants to remove all the devices or remove everything on ONOS tree, and the controller, preferably, controller can say, well, sorry, you can't do that. But if the protocol doesn't allow for a controller to be able to say that, or for an entity to be able to say that, well, controller can say, well, that's very nice, but I'm not going to do anything. And application clearly is at fault for attempting to do this. I really don't care what standard says in here. It is clearly a incomplete standard if it doesn't allow for an application for an entity to be able to reject an operation like that. For example, clearly it does not make any sense for an application to attempt to remove a state node, right? An operational state node. And today, entities network elements can simply say, well, I have my counters, I'm not going to remove them.
Yeah. That's true, Thomas. This is in the logically speaking, right? There should be application aware. Basically, there should be operation that should be application aware, right? Does it make sense to do this operation or not? For the RESTconf protocol, if you read our RFC, it's just a protocol that can manipulate any component of the young tree.
I understand.
Okay.
So the protocol is one thing, right? But then the entity that sort of complies with that protocol is then free to do, the things that make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So at least I can say from the protocol perspective that at least that the first requirement is supported by the protocol, i.e. Manipulating any of the red or the purple leaf nodes are supported by the protocol. That by the way, I with the patch operation, right, we are able to modify these leaf attributes. Right, no problem.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, our implementation of the protocol basically can take these URL prefixes and map them to root spaces of the models themselves. So on the server side, so the application can effectively send data which is relative to the native model or modules that the device supports and does not need to be rerouted into anything else, right?
Correct. The protocol, yes, correct. So the RESTconf implementation today is convert a URI into a resource ID. Okay, it's no smart there. It's just resource URI resource ID are representing exactly the same thing. It's just a simple translation.
Sure. Okay, right? But once we have the resource ID, so the question though is the resource ID is unique to the entire tree, right? So
unique, yes.
Right, but then the resource ID also then the runtime needs to be able to map the resource ID to at least from certain part onward of the resource ID has to map to has to be bound to a specific schema, right?
Resource ID resource ID is applied to the schema, but the data structure of the resource ID is how does it does not require query the schema, right, to do any processing. So in other words,
the resource ID doesn't, but then as a result, so let's say the dynamic configuration here, right, which is sort of what's responsible for bringing this entire tree together.
Yes.
So the resource ID can be used to address the entire tree in a unique manner. However,
yes,
the mapping from mapping to a specific model does not start until the pink subtrees, right?
yes.
So basically, the URI prefix
Yes.
takes you to the leaves of the blue tree, and then the Yangs
Yes, I see. Yeah, yeah.
does not
Okay.
start until the root of the pink trees.
Yes, yes, yes. I see your point. Yes, that again, that's doable as well. I mean, we are able to render the prefix of this resconf URI, right? I.e., the represent the blue, right?
Yeah.
Thing. And integrate that prefix into a resource ID specific. I mean, yeah, we are able. So basically, what I'm trying to highlight here is that in the ONOS/RESTconf/1111 stuff, right? We can treat that as what's called a RESTconf root.
Yes.
So basically, we are able to do something like that, right? Right now, today, RESTconf root, right, is a static. What I can do, right, or what we can do, right, is to make RESTconf root a context aware, right, can change during at the runtime, right? Basically, what I see, right, is that the RESTconf root should include root from the root device, right, and then from there onward downward are the URI. I mean the real resource ID start.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that's doable, right?
So that would meet unique Utah, right?
That's unique. Yeah. Yeah. So URI at the model level or the purple, right? The purple tree level are all unique, right? So the resource ID are all unique. The root down, the RESTconf root, right, traverse down to a particular tree is also unique in the purple, in the blue domain.
Yes.
The blue domain, right? Yeah. So two unique plot together, right? We got a unique identifier.
Great. So Utah, that meets the need, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Yeah. But again, I mean, we can, we have to do something. It's not totally RESTconf compliant, but as Thomas said, if we go that path, definitely we can support your specification, Utah.
Yeah, that would be great. So from I guess from your point of view, so should we agree on? So in order to express brew, resource ID schema, I've got the exact name. Schema namespace must be null, or should we define some kind of ONOS namespace representing this is the blue part kind of thing? We eventually need to define that somewhere and be consistent there. I guess at least today, root node is using no namespace, if I'm correct. So should we keep inheriting that and blue will be represented as no resource name, or would it be better to define some textual namespace representing that it's the blue stuff?
Henry, Thomas, just to understand correctly, if I understand the things correctly right now, okay, I completely agree. There are two ways to handle this situation. One way is like the Yang schema itself define it. Second way is like the RESTconf protocol is modified to handle that. So that is fine. So now if we are going with a second approach, say for an instance, so the blue pieces which are coming, so those will be consumed by the RESTconf protocol. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. The blue region, right, is still addressed by RESTconf, but RESTconf is gonna do some pre-processing, right, to be able to find the correct purple node, right, by rendering the blue region's path,
Fine.
but not allow
Okay.
the user of the RESTconf to do any modification on it.
Sure.
On the
So
blue.
the blue pieces are consumed by RESTconf, and basically from the runtime, the output would be the resource ID and data node for um, um, the down pieces. What we are seeing, the
purple,
actual
yeah,
models.
right,
Correct? Okay.
right. That's my understanding, right? Yeah.
Okay. So now the blue pieces will be converted to what? Like, will the APIs of the dynamic config is going to change, which will accept the resource ID and data node corresponding to the actual schema, and the blue pieces as a separate entity?
So
Or
can I suggest something? It's a variation on what you just suggested, Gaurav, I think, if I understood you correctly. So what I would suggest is that part of the pre-processing that the RESTconf does, it generates a resource ID. But I am suggesting that the resource ID is generated from two parts. So basically, it includes the prefix through the blue, and then
right,
basically appends to that the namespace below the
right.
so
So
this way it does not. So when the information is passed to when the resource ID is passed to the dynamic configuration, it is already the entire path, which is
right.
includes the blue nodes.
Yeah, Thomas, you're saying, so first of all the blue part nodes, right? They to dynamic config, the blue region are just nodes, data nodes, no different from the
Yes,
red, right?
correct.
They also have resource IDs associated with them, right? Device ID. The
Correct.
dynamic config, the RESTconf, what they need to do is first, they do not allow user, right, to touch or modify any of the nodes in the blue zone, right? So basically, it has some kind of a rejecting mechanism, like don't touch it. Secondly, it has this capability to concatenate two resource ID or two paths together to form the real path pointing to the purple nodes. Right.
Correct. And that way, that sort of that those gymnastics are then narrowed down to only one area of code inside the RESTconf, and nobody else needs to do any such gymnastics.
Thomas,
Right.
for this model converter pieces also, because the applications would also be wanted to talk to devices. So for them also, we will require this thing to be done, because then the how they will be constructing a POJO, and
I see. So you're saying that the basically, okay, the is it model converter or
basically how application will talk to devices, how the device ID, device informations they will create, because there is no class now, a generated class available for them.
well? Again, so application that need to manipulate the entire tree clearly needs to be, in order to address the specific device, they must be aware of. I'm confused a little bit.
Thomas, can I suggest something here? Basically, see, with the second approach, right, when we are going with a RESTconf approach, the external clients, which are the RESTconf clients, how they will interact with the our RESTconf protocol, that is also one area we need to look at. I am not sure how that will happen, because uh, they would be like expecting a complete schema in a YANG file format. So Yang is itself is it's like a representation of the end-to-end schema.
So
wait. Is it?
Just what I would be what I was suggesting, I am definitely for like we should not be changing the current device schema. We should not be doing any changes in those existing device schema, but there are technologies, Yang ways like schema mount. The schema mount is basically a new feature in Yang wherein we can define a ONOS level schema, and that would contain the root device's device ID, and dynamically anyone can mount their schema to that existing ONOS schema. So that looks to a cleaner approach and the standard, the approach which we followed as per the standard also.
Okay, but that's new. That's new functionality that's available only in what Yang? Yang 1.1?
No, that is not related to Yang 1.1. It's a new Yang extension which has been defined in a draft. So for supporting that extensions has to be supported and has to be implemented. Because the other approach, what we are taking, the RESTconf approach, I see there is a work involved both in the converter and maybe RESTconf areas, and maybe we need to further figure it out.
I'm not willing to pile on another requirement of features to support it. Let's go basically. It's a URL with RESTconf. Forget netconf. With RESTconf, it's effectively URL. Each device has a unique URL, which later can be re-implemented as the mount point. And let's now just go with that. And yes, this is basically, in my view, it's clearly the fact that they've had to introduce this new extension. They recognize the deficiency in the RESTconf protocol, the whole Yang scheme of things. So let's go with what we discussed originally, which is applications that want to talk to ONOS, to the devices through ONOS, effectively have a URL for each device. That's effectively what they have. And the URL includes some RESTconf devices, blah, device identifier. That's the convention that they have to use in order to talk to a device. There will be similar convention that they have to do to talk to individual services. They cannot really address the blue nodes at all. They cannot see them. Basically, what externally the applications see is a forest of trees, each of them with its own URL for devices and services, and individual devices and individual services. And then when they address that URL, the namespace, URL namespace, which means rooted at that prefix and then anything below, they're going to be automatically internally mapped into the proper schema, and then but they also need to be internally mapped to proper part of the sort of the logically unified tree. And I think that's how it should work externally, and then we need to figure out how it works internally. Later on, we can add a mapping of this to the extension mechanism which supports the mount point. But I don't want to add that complication right now, because we need to have something that works, right?
Yeah. So the simpler approach is probably doing the operations in the RESTconf. Which right in the RESTconf area, which is not the difficult thing to do, right? So all I can see is that the URL. First of all, the URI or the URL can uniquely point to any purple nodes in the tree, right? So in that regard, the RESTconf can allow the user to point into the purple region, right, to do the operation. Secondly, the RESTconf can simply when receive a get or post operation, it can basically examine the URL, the URI. If the URI is pointing to some blue region, right, just reject, or don't do any, not reject, but don't do any operation. You just return, right? Yeah. So that's my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Right, then it's doable, right?
My only humble request here is look at the end-to-end scenario wherein we have the application talking to calling for the device configurations also. The end-to-end scenario, like how we will do with these deviations from the standard what we are taking.
Yeah.
What do you?
Yes. So yeah, sorry guys for the interruption. I guess you probably didn't realize IY is in China right now. It's it's already midnight in China.
Okay.
Whoops, sorry.
So maybe continue discussion on the email or something.
Yeah, can we discuss this maybe in the email chain and then do some formal discussion in the next session?
Sounds good.
If we cannot find a
common
email.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, at least we have a good start. I sort of understand what RESTconf assignment is. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Can we
write up your request, please? That would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Thomas.
You were starting to say a request, so if you can write it up in email, that would be good.
Sure. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's just follow up on the email thread, and hopefully, I guess if there isn't anything else, I guess we can close today's call. I guess.
Okay. So Yuta, you have you already shared this document with the Brigade?
Yes.
Okay.
There's an email sent out with the URL on it, so I can repost the message right after this.
Okay, that would be very nice. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good night.
Hey, thanks.